Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dadam Reacts. We got through a couple already, but we're going to move into something in a little bit of a different direction. This is a movie about Ronald Reagan, I believe. um, for some people, one of the greater presidents to have taken the position. For some, really bad, but that's how politics work. We're not going to divulge into that. But it's Dennis Quaid, and I do love me some Dennis Quaid. Penelope Ann Miller is also in it, and John Voight. So let's take a look. And if you don't know who John Voight is, he is Angelina Jolie's father.
There's nothing a retired governor can do, but a president. Now he can do a thing or two.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
I will be frank with you that as a citizen, I would not like to see any political party outlawed on the basis of its ideology, because I still believe, Mr. Chairman, that democracy can handle it.
I was a brand new KGB officer, given my first intelligence assignment. A certain actor and union leader.
Dutch, there's a purpose for your life.
You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're gonna have to stand up to him.
It's my boy!
There's about to be another war right here in Hollywood. The commies on one side, the mob on the other. And you're right in the middle, son.
If you put as much work into your career as you do making your speeches,
Oh man,
you
Munis
have an
already.
Oscar by now.
Hello, I'm Nancy Davis.
Hello, Nancy Davis. I'm Ron Reagan.
I'm curious, Ron.
What would you say is the issue of our time?
No question about it. Communism and the Soviet Union.
Get in the game. Run for office.
It's you!
I'm running for governor, and I would like your vote.
I forgot your name.
Do his initials help, or are?
Honey, Roy Rogers is here! And he's running for governor!
Ronnie, remember when we met? You told me that you wanted to make a difference in this world. You know what you have to do.
Governor Reagan again, typically, is against such a proposal.
There you go again.
But he was not afraid to take us on.
There's nothing a retired governor can do about the Soviets, but a president. Now he can do a thing or two.
Welcome to your life.
I was a lifeguard on a river,
There's no turning back.
and I learned how to read the currents. Not just the ones on the surface, but also the ones deep underneath the water.
I am about to start the biggest war of this century, and I'm not gonna fire a single shot. You're gonna blow up 8 years of diplomacy.
Well, if you think that got their undies in a wad, you just wait.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wants to rule the world.
Actually, that looks really good. Ronald Reagan, the actor. Yeah, he sounded a lot like him. We actually have in California. We had the museum that they erected for him up on the hill, and we got to go do a tour of it, and we were part of a group. We actually got to meet him. He was still in the wheelchair at the time while he was alive. We also got to meet Nancy as well. It was a really cool thing and experience. At the museum, they have pieces of the wall that got torn down that they brought back. Sneak jelly beans into the theater. So it's crazy, because it's like there's throughout the history of America, there's always like incredible presidents, and then there's just like ones that hold the position for a while. And I feel like that's the kind of the, you know, without going into a huge political debate, that's how we kind of, it feels right now, is we have people that are holding the position, but they're not, it doesn't feel like they're fighting to progress the world, or they're not fighting for change or fighting for, you know, people's freedoms anymore. It's just, everything feels different about it. It's not, you know, it's not the same. We don't know if there can ever be a great president that we remember. I love this scene, by the way. Roy Rogers.
His initials help, RR.
Honey, Roy Rogers is here.
That's really funny. My dad will really like that. My dad used to go to like Roy Rogers' his mansion, and the family used to swim in his pool and stuff. And I remember my dad used to have me watch Roy Rogers movies, and he used to talk about him like he was this like great man. And I was always watching a Roy Rogers, and he was like, "What the? Like, I don't get it." So that's a funny thing. That's only personal to me. That has nothing to do with it. But I feel like he doesn't like look like him, but like he looks like he's embodying the character very. I like the premise of it because it feels like they're gonna go through all of his life and the things that kind of cultivated why he became that person or why he went. And I appreciate that, right? Because if you watch, I think it was W, the one that's about Bush, it's such a like, it's so cartoony at times, and maybe that's how Bush really was in real life, and maybe it's not so much, but the content of that movie, there was nothing super impactful for me that I cared about as to where, like, you know, what Reagan did, getting Gorbachev to take down the Berlin Wall, essentially fighting the last Cold War era, you know, conflict we've had. It's just a lot of things that go into it, and it's simply the fact that, you know, he was an actor that became an activist that took action because he saw wrong things happening in the world and wanted to make change. Check out the video. Yeah, so this is in Simi Valley. You know, like I said, I don't think you were gonna get anyone that kind of looks like him, but the way Reagan spoke was incredible. Curious if they had. I'm trying to see if they had any photos of, but I guess that it's kind of like they want you to come come visit. I'm not looking at it. Actually, still not that expensive. Guided tour. Yeah, we did a school tour for it first. And it's really nice. It's up on a hill. You can overlook. I think it's the 5. It's the 5. I think it's the 5 freeway that goes past it. But yeah, he's just, you know, for some people, he's one of the last great presidents that existed. That really fought for change and fought to do things right. Like, he gets a lot of comparisons, John F. Kennedy and a lot of other great leaders we have. And that's, you know, that's awesome that they made a movie that's really about him, or the core of him, or his essence, essentially, as opposed to they could have made it about like a bunch of weird like Hollywood scandals and stuff like that. Because you got to remember, or maybe you don't know, that time in Hollywood, they were really worried about people being communists inside of Hollywood, that they were using Hollywood to like train soldiers and to brainwash people, and they were trying to, you know, in which ironic is Fallout just came out, and that's a huge part of that show, is the character in that finding this secret group of, you know, communists And it was actually very reminiscent to what I'm assuming is going to be told in this story, because he did have to combat those things. There were times where his whole career might have blown up because he was a president that was more involved with people being alive and human and having rights, and less about their political standing, as long as it didn't infringe on somebody else's freedoms. And that's like, it shows a level of intelligence and respect for human life. And I think maybe that's where things kind of fall off now, where it just feels like so many actions or so many things just feel very token or just very reactory, as to where everyone's telling him not to do anything, you know, when he was going through his struggles as governor, as president. um and he saw something that needed to be changed and was a proponent to it and had to fight to get there to fight. And that shows somebody that has passion and cause. And if you have any chance to watch Reagan's speeches, they're incredible. He speaks eloquently, he speaks with conviction and passion in his voice. He's got a twinkle in his eye. And I think for some people, it was hard to distinguish him while he was speaking like that from the actor side of him, because they had seen him act and they'd seen, you know, they knew that he had the ability to portray a character, so they were just never sure if he was beyond that character. And I think his actions ultimately and his legacy ultimately should, you know, squash any of that and should stand for their own right, right? The simple fact that he got him to break down the wall, he freed a country of people from starvation, famine, essentially being murdered by what was it, the Gestapo, the secret police they had that were just killing people and burying them and shit. Like, it was horrible over there. It's horrible over there now, right? And it's horrible in a lot of places in the world, unfortunately, right now. But it doesn't feel like we have anyone fighting for change. We have people that fight responsive to what's happening so that it appears like we care, but ultimately it feels like hollow gestures. And it's at times like this when they, you know, when they do things and they make movies like this, where these movies have much more impact and have much more um they have much more ability to actually inspire someone, because they show people there was a time where someone cared enough about someone else to put his own, you know, life at risk, right? They tried to assassinate him. um and that didn't stop him from fighting for change. It didn't stop Nancy. And then even after they left office, right? Even after you know, she was no longer the active first lady, right? She was still doing school programs. She was still doing all these other things. Um and that's the mark of greatness, or the mark of someone that's doing it for more than just show, right? The people that are truly kind or altruistic or have that ambivalence in their heart always have it. They don't only have it when other people can see it or when they think other people can see it. And I think that's what's missing, is so many things in the world now feel like they're only present for brief glimmering moments, and then we find out that behind the scenes that was never real. It was always fake, and that's the most heartbreaking thing, right? If you know, let's say you loved an actor, or you loved a, you know, a musician, or a, you know, an athlete, somebody that you kind of idolized, and they have this persona of greatness, and they have this persona where, you know, they live into this world where you aspire to be them. There's nothing worse than when you find out that that was always fake. and behind the scenes, you know, they're beating the hell out of their wife or their kids, or you know, they're hurting animals. Michael Vick. Um, not that I idolized him, but to that degree where you can find out that they're just naturally, truly horrible people at their core. And maybe they weren't always, but whatever circumstance happened that led them down that path, that's what they became. And I think that's the difference between someone that's truly great or has greatness inside of them and then someone that doesn't, right? Um, Ronald Reagan did not stop being great because he left office. Nancy Reagan did not stop trying to help children and help people that were less fortunate because she left office, right? The world has changed to some degree in that. Um, you know, maybe it'll change again. Maybe we'll find that person. Maybe someone will step up to fight that fight, to challenge that regime of mediocrity or just doing just enough, because that's what it feels. It just feels like they try to do just enough instead of trying to do what's right. Just enough to not have to struggle. Just enough not to have to do more. And like it doesn't feel like how it used to. You know, because I'm part of, I don't even know what they call me anymore. Like I'm Gen Z, XY, like who knows, right? I was alive when the internet didn't exist. I was alive for rotary phones. I was alive for, you know, black and white television. I mean, color television existed, but in '84, right, my first TV was a rabbit-eared black and white television. Um, so it's like I've been alive through the great evolution of the past, you know, 40 years essentially. If you look at how time has progressed and the evolution of technology and everything like that, right? If you go from, you know, the 80s to the 90s, 90s to the 2000, 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2020, like the leaps and bounds of technology is boundlessly endless. Like it's just, you know, technology, it doesn't even, they used to say, I think it was technology doubles every 5 years, I think is what the old statistic, like at this point technology is doubling every day almost, like, right? And you have AI getting created, which brings so many new possibilities and so many new fears for people. So it makes something like this very, very poised to be very impactful, I think is the best way to put it. I'm actually really excited for this. I think Dennis Quaid looked incredible. Penelope Ann Miller looked really good. You don't really see her that often anymore, so that'll be really nice. Um, I think I'm really gonna enjoy this movie. I literally just went and saw the last movie I went and saw was I don't know, the Ungentlemanly, the movie that's about the birth of James Bond essentially. It's Ian Fleming and Churchill fighting a secret war against Nazi Germany, and getting to see what a great leader Churchill was and the amount of stress he was under at the face of extinction. It's incredible, right? And it led me to this thought that if they made a movie that was just about Churchill, like growing up and his fight against his own parliament, um, who were ready to just lay down and let, you know, Hitler and Nazi Germany just run rickshaw on him. I would watch that movie, and I think it's movies like this that have to remind us that greatness can exist, but it comes at the cost of somebody sacrificing of themselves and fighting against the sea of people saying no, stop, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's going to destroy your career. It's going to destroy all those things. And it just feels like the world's at a place where it's so tired. It doesn't have the strength to do that. And that really does like truly break my heart to some degree, because you know, I'm trying to raise two kids and show them that the world can be a great place. And you have moments where it's just like you turn on the news and it just doesn't feel that way. And then you know, I look to my current president, and unfortunately, half the time he doesn't look a lot like, you know, all jokes aside, he doesn't look like he's alive sometimes. He looks like a robot. He looks like he's had so much Botox maybe to make him look younger. He looks lost at times, and the way he speaks is just so dissembled, right? And we come from a president who was extremely selfish and so self-absorbed that the world couldn't exist without him, that it did terrible things. Um, and then it didn't matter if he could have been a good president. It didn't matter if Trump had the ability or have good change. His negatives outweighed any positive he could have done, right? Then you come off of 8 years with Obama, where he spent the first 4 years, the whole conversation being that he was the first African American president and he did nothing. The next 4 years talking about how he's ruining. It's just like the conversations are never about the things that really matter, or the things that, like, are we truly having greatness lead us, or are we just having people sit in that position hoping that eventually somebody great will be there again? Or if we got put into massive conflict or strife, the person there could prevent us from crumbling. That's what, you know, a president's supposed to do, what a prime minister, what, you know, queen, the king, whoever it is leading your country. Like, that's the person you want to look to in a time of crisis and feel some degree or some level of security, that it's not just a crapshoot. And I feel like we don't have that. And it hurts us economically. It hurts us in every aspect of, you know, the way our country exists. And I hate that. I'm just one man. I don't know what I can try and fight it. I unfortunately don't have the money to, right? I think it costs like $80 million to run for president right now. I'm almost at that age. I could start, right? That's what I need to do. I need to run for president. I mean, but the reality is, it's just like, I think I could fight for change. I don't think I'm the person that would have the answer to how to affect it, because my answer would be to change so much that it would scare people, right? Because I think ultimately that's what needs to happen, is a lot of things. In order for us, like, and maybe that's what scares, where it used to just be we could focus on a single enemy. It's so much harder for us to focus on the things that are wrong now, because a lot of the times the things that are wrong are with us. It's with our country, with our political system, our political parties. It's our elected officials that we have to be looking at as, like, you know, the villain. And that's crazy. Like, it's crazy to think that it's like it's almost to a point where some people feel like it needs to be a war against government, right? And it's kind of like throughout time, it just feels like that's repeated. And it's crazy that we're back to that, where people are talking about it again. Like, you have people in Texas that think they want to secede from America. You have in Canada, Quebec wants to become their own country. They want to become, like, you know, France 2.0 or 0.5. I think there's even a territory in Australia that was talking. It might have been like New Kingsland or Newfoundland or something like that. I was reading a story where they don't want to be a part of, you know, Australia anymore. I'm like, it's so funny to think, right? Like, how is Texas gonna leave America? It's connected on more than four sides, essentially, because of the way it's shaped. But I mean, it's right up against the coast, literally in the middle of the country, and this state is huge. Feels like it takes 25 hours to drive across Texas. But that's why I would enjoy a movie like this. Yeah, man, I can go on a freaking. I went off the rails. Okay. Um, Ultimate point. That's why I would enjoy a movie about Ronald Reagan, because I want to be reminded of what a great president that sacrificed for the people, not for himself, felt like. How long did that take me? Did you time me? Shut up. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna enjoy this movie. I It didn't look like it was coming out in theaters. Oh no, it is. Okay, so it's coming into theaters on the 30th. I don't think it is gonna do too well. Um, but we'll see. I'm gonna hope it does, right? And it's interesting of how they are framing this because it's told through the voice of Victor Petrovich, which is the KGB agent, um, who was kind of, I wouldn't say he was secretly like the villain, but from what I've read, because it's always hard when you get information like that, especially about like a KGB agent, right? Because you don't know what's misinformation or what's real information. um, it's gonna be cool, like to see it kind of from a different lens, because maybe this, that was my point of view from Reagan, right? Or what I saw from Reagan, from what I know through history. So it'll be interesting to see it through the lens of a KGB agent who potentially was being trained to assassinate him at one, right? So to see him or to see how they, you know, how they viewed him, it'll be interesting. I think it potentially adds a really cool different secondary layer to it, right? Because maybe they just see him as more grandiose, or maybe they see him in a different way than somebody else. But I will stop. Like we literally talk about this all night, guys. Like we could talk about politics, we get religion, anything all night. I'm an open book, and I love to learn about people's point of views because I think it helps me have a more rounded point of view and never feel like I'm pointed, right? Because I don't ever want to be pointed in one direction so that I can never change course. I want to be able to be rounded enough that I can come to my own conclusion about something and so I can be educated enough in that manner. But before we go into this, please drop a like, subscribe, throw a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know who your favorite president was. Um, Honestly, between I have three, and I think a lot of people might agree with them or not agree with them, but I think John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, and um, Abraham Lincoln are three really good presidents. And I think they each did something for the country or tried to do something for this country, um, to make things better. And whether people want to argue those points, who knows? But you know, I'm not gonna put one, two, or three because I think when you're talking about people that truly showed greatness and sacrifice and I don't need a list of one, two, and three. My life is better because of their existence, and I honor them for that. Um, hey, and guess what? We're leading into Memorial Day weekend. Um, wow, the world's pretty cool like that sometimes, or the universe is cool. Because what is it? Monday is Memorial Day weekend. Is Memorial Day, right? And then, interesting. But most importantly, do something kind for somebody else.